Welcome to the Smart Business Revolution.
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 You want a revolution? You say you want a revolution?
Revolution.
The revolution.
It's going on right now.
Welcome to The Revolution, the Smart Business Revolution podcast, where we ask today's most successful entrepreneurs to share the tools and strategies they use to build relationships and connections to grow their revenue. Now, your host for The Revolution, John Corcoran.
Hi there, I'm Julie Musgrave, guest host of Smart Business Revolution podcast, where we talk with CEOs, founders, and entrepreneurs of companies and organizations like YPO, EO, Activision Blizzard, LendingTree, OpenTable, Act Software, and many more. Our guest today is John Lie-Nielsen, CEO of One Park Financial. The company's mission is to help small to mid-sized businesses get access to working capital both quickly and efficiently. They help customers for the long haul, growing business with customer-centric services to make it all happen. You will not want to miss his advice. But before we get into this interview, this episode is brought to you by Rise 25 Media. Rise 25 helps B2B businesses get clients, referrals, and strategic partnerships with done-for-you podcasts and content marketing. If you're listening to this and have ever thought, should I do a podcast? Well, we say yes. We specialize in helping B2B businesses with a high client lifetime value. So to learn more and get some more inspiration and ideas about how you could get clients, referrals, and some of the best friendships of your life from a podcast, go to rise25media.com or email support@rise25media.com. As I mentioned earlier, our guest is John Lie-Nielsen, CEO of One Park Financial. If you're a small to mid-sized business owner looking to make some financial moves, make sure you're listening to this one. One Park Financial is a business dedicated to helping other businesses gain access to working capital just like the big guys. They help get time and credit and paperwork all on your side. John is an entrepreneur specializing in launching and developing financial service firms. In 1999, he founded ACA Financial LLC, and in 2010, founded his current company, One Park Financial. That business has since been named one of the best entrepreneurial companies in America in Entrepreneur Magazine's Entrepreneur 360 list more than once. John, thank you so much for joining us. We are so excited to hear more from you. Now, as I mentioned, you've really been there. You try to get an idea off the ground, get your business started. So if you can remember, what were some of the biggest obstacles you remember encountering, and how did you get around them?
Thank you, Julie, for having me. Good afternoon. Glad to be here. I think one of the biggest challenges when starting a business, I think the biggest challenge is actually doing it. So actually making that step where you're leaving a current job, maybe where you have a salary that is safe, or maybe you're in a transition where you've been laid off and you have some great opportunity and you've been thinking about it, but you don't know if it's going to work. And I think the biggest challenge is really having confidence in yourself and rolling the dice and actually doing it. I've gotten a lot of great advice from my father over the years, and a phrase that he likes to use is just get in the game. And by that he means just get started. You don't know what you don't know, and if you haven't started, you can come up with a lot of conclusions in your head, but you really don't know what's going to happen until you actually get started. So get in the game is the first piece of advice I'd give to people, and because you're not going to know what the market is until you actually test it a little bit.
I love that you bring up your father. What was your dad's role in helping you get to where you are today?
Well, my dad has been an entrepreneur his whole life. So I think an advantage that I had, a real advantage growing up, is that I actually witnessed what that meant. The takeaway wasn't that it was always good. So but he had to work really hard, and he took businesses through big recessions as well, and I saw how hard that was on him. But he's also someone as a bit of a role model to understand. I think just getting back to the question you asked before about what are some of the hardest things, and just doing it. Mm-hmm. And at least having witnessed my father, I understood a little bit about what that actually looked like. So I think that was very beneficial for me.
Do you remember a time where you saw him maybe in the middle of a struggle, and live in his words that he would say is just to do it? When did you learn that in action?
Well, yeah, he's yes, there's several times where I know he was having a hard time, and a big struggle with the business, and perseverance is key as an entrepreneur. I think it's Winston Churchill that said, if you find yourself, walking in hell, keep walking, or something along those lines. I've just murdered that quote, but
that's okay. We'll allow you to.
but I witnessed it with my father. And in hard times, you can't stay in bed. People are relying upon you, and so you got to get up, and it's hard, but you keep trudging forward, and you create your path. Yeah, definitely witnessed that over the years, and today we're in another period that's very complex and hard, and so it's a good reminder every day to get up,
exactly,
and keep moving forward. Looking for opportunities and deal with the challenges, but you can't deal with them in bed.
You bring up such a timely issue right now. So many businesses are under financial pressure right now because of COVID. What would you say that we need to be focusing on in order to stay the path? I love that you say you just got to get out of bed. That's step one, but what else do we need to be doing?
Well, it's everyone is dealing with so many different situations, right? So what I like to focus on is what I can control. So there are a lot of things that you cannot control right now, and that's difficult. I myself can be a bit of a control freak, and in today's environment, just when it seems like we're getting some clarity on things, we don't have them. So I know that what I can control, I can control my costs. So I'm very careful about costs. I'm looking at any expenditure that is going out of the company now is reviewed by me. None of that is on autopilot anymore. Questioning what we, do we need to do longer term contracts? What can we do to keep optionality open? I mentioned cost, and so we're not necessarily always, we're looking to do things more on a short-term basis. Maybe can we sign up for a 6-month agreement rather than a 3-year agreement, so that we can, even if that costs more right now, it keeps some optionality for us as we get through the fall and as we're coming into next year, to see if that service is something we really need for 3 years, and what is the world going to look like in 6 months.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, because you need to keep forging ahead. You need to keep turning revenue, but you got to keep your options open.
Right.
I like that. And it sounds like you've really been personally affected. Aside from looking at your individual costs, how are you managing this with your relationships, with the people that work with you?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's, I think there's several constituencies or groups as a business owner that you have to make sure you're in touch with, and constant communication. So there are our customers, there are our shareholders, and then there are our employees. And it's been difficult because we have we here in our location, everyone went to work from home, like many have. We've brought back some of our staff, but we still have many people at work from home, and so we've tried to create as much normalcy as we can. So we're big believers in typically they're short stand-up meetings in an office. We call them huddles. We've maintained our huddles. It's just now they're on a Teams call. I know I'm on a Zoom call with you, but it's a video call. But we've maintained that discipline. We've instituted in a lot of our regular meetings icebreakers, just to kind of loosen people up. I know everyone's just under a lot of stress, and there's stress right now with not only the business but health. It's a pretty important thing. And then, everyone's dealing with different things. Maybe they've been in an apartment where they can't exercise. Maybe they're dealing with kids that are at home and, trying to get kids to work. So we all have a lot of different things. So we try to keep things as normal as possible. But then we do things like icebreakers. We do dress up days on our calls. 70s disco days, different things like that.
Yeah.
And just as a way to keep it a little bit light and fun. And we're trying to inject some humor into people's lives
Exactly.
as best that we can.
I appreciate that you are not only thinking about the work that needs to be done within the office culture. There's so many factors outside of this too, the kids and their home lives and exercise, mental health.
Yeah.
What advice do you have for other business owners to kind of refocus on that? Consider all of that when you're trying to take care of your employees.
Well, I would encourage all of them to exercise. I just think that's really important. And it doesn't have to be exercise for some people. It could be meditation, prayer. But the power of exercise for me is incredible. And I often will get to a place where I think I have other things to take care of. And so I don't take care of me. I have 4 young children. I run a business, very happily married. And so a lot of times I'll find myself trying to solve all of those people's needs. And I figure I don't need to worry about mine for a while. And what actually happens is I kind of turn into an asshole. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that on this podcast. Because I'm just holding on to so much stress, and that makes me, most importantly, not as good a husband, not as good a father, and not as good a manager and leader. And so I really do try to make the time to exercise. That just puts me in a better place. And then all the other roles in my life, I'm much better at those other roles. So even though it seems selfish to put myself first and insist on 30 or 40 minutes, I've actually found it's the least selfish thing for me to do, because I'm better in all the roles
It pays
that I have
off
in my life.
Yeah, you got to put that life vest on first.
Yeah.
Let's circle back around to the business side of this. How do you feel about relief programs?
Well, that's a good question. So for this, I'll focus on maybe the PPP. I felt that for the most part, that's been a very good program. And I think with some of the recent changes where they allowed the forgiveness of payroll from, I think, 8 weeks to 24 weeks, it fixed a lot of the problems with that program where people were given the money, but we're here in Florida, you couldn't even open your business. So why would you have people on payroll when you're shut down as a restaurant owner? What you really needed was you needed to line up the money and the forgiveness with when you could actually be generating revenue. So I think that it's now, unfortunately, it's gotten a little politicized with both parties. But I think it certainly has saved a lot of jobs. And I think it's very difficult to get aid out like that as quickly as they did through a bureaucracy. And it's unprecedented. And I think they did a great job. I know our community bank did a great job for us under very difficult circumstances with a lot of changing requirements. From what we've seen with our the merchants that we support, I think generally the community banks did a better job than some of the big banks. it took some time, but I think the money did get out. I know initially there was a lot of frustration with the smallest borrowers that it felt like the bigger customers of the banks were getting serviced first, and I'm sure they were. But I feel like over time that money did get out, and all things considered, I think it's been a pretty good program.
I like it. So what advice do you have for folks who maybe had just launched? They were diving in. They finally did it. They took your advice. They took that first step, but then COVID hit.
Yeah.
How do you recover? What advice do you have to stay afloat, keep your head above water?
Well, I think in many ways, at the lowest points, it's the best time to launch a business. Now, having sunk perhaps a lot of money into a brand new restaurant and then you can't open, that's not a good time.
Right.
But a lot of times, in a time like this, people are open to getting phone calls from people they don't normally receive. You can hire people or get freelance workers who are extremely talented people who have been laid off during this period of time or are on reduced compensation and maybe are looking for some additional work. You might find a great partner in a period of time like this. And when there's so much disruption, that's when a lot of great ideas are generated. I know a lot of great companies were built and started in the sort of 08-09 recession as well. So, the whole world's on fire, right? So maybe this is the time to do it. And maybe even more so than when the world is very stable. Because I think a lot of people are looking at maybe where they work now, and things are a little uncertain for a lot of companies. And so maybe this is now the time to bet on yourself. So I actually think this is a great time to attempt to launch a business.
That's a good dose of optimism that I think a lot of folks will appreciate hearing. Let's say that we are feeling a little bit more stable in the economy now. So what are the first steps that folks should be taking when trying to get something off the ground? We provide financing for businesses. So I think that an entrepreneur needs to always be thinking about people, strategy, and capital, and they're all very important. So if you don't have the right strategy, it doesn't matter. If you don't have, if you're not capitalized in the right way, it's not going to matter. And if you don't surround yourself initially with a couple of people that are really great, you're going to have a really hard time moving forward. So I always focus on those things, even as we've gotten larger in different businesses. Those words are always in my mind, and I try to find time to slow down and make sure that my current strategy is still the right one. I spend a lot of time thinking about how I'm capitalized. We were pretty well prepared for what happened this year because a lot of thought had been put into it ahead of time. And then I spent a lot of time on people. And I think those three things are really important whether you're starting a business, whether you're 2 years into a business or 10 years into a business. I think those are always the three things as the CEO, many times founders, need to be really focused on. Now, clearly you've experienced getting something off the ground. You saw a need. So what were some of the needs that you were seeing with other people when you decided to start One Park Financial?
It's really the challenge after the recession, for example, back in 08 and 09, banks really pulled back from providing small business financing. Previously, even credit card companies would get very aggressive with large credit lines to small business owners, and losses on the credit card side and in the banking sector after 08 and 09 were very large. So for small businesses, loans to small businesses. So and then Dodd-Frank, there's regulatory reform. So banks pulled back, and just as I was saying earlier, right? Sometimes the best time to jump in is in the midst of the chaos. So there was an opportunity to come in and provide financing for small businesses in a way where the market had changed very rapidly. So that was really the opportunity that we saw, and that also came with another business that I had that wasn't mentioned in the intro here, where I was just looking for a small line of credit. The business was very profitable. My credit was perfect, and it took 4 months to get to a yes, and I was approved for only 25% of what I was originally told I was going to get approved for. It made no sense. Yeah. And that's when I just started digging, and I said, this it's preposterous. Why should this be so difficult to get bank financing? And that led me to keep digging. And then that led me to say, hey, we can do a better job here.
Yeah.
And we have.
How does it make you feel to know that you're helping these small and mid-sized business owners really make that idea happen, those dreams happen?
Yeah, it feels great. I think every business, it's important to kind of understand what your purpose is, and providing lending or financing, that doesn't get you all emotional about purpose, right? But what we love to do is we love to do profiles on our merchant success stories. And when you see a business that you started with 3-4 years ago that's now grown their business 5 or 8 times, they've gone from 4 employees to 15 or 18 employees. They have been able to maybe put their kids in a school they couldn't afford before, or just made some real improvements and changes in their life. It's fantastic. So that's the stuff that we focus on here in terms of what our purpose is. Not oh, hey, we made we financed another business. It's the businesses that have been with us and where have we been able to take them. So and we the big point here, we say we're partners in your success. Over the last few months we've been saying we're partners in your recovery. But we're partners. The entrepreneurs are the ones that are doing it. We're just a tool for them. But we feel like we've served a purpose when they achieve their goals. So it's a great feeling.
That term recovery, I think a lot of people are, that's in everyone's minds right now. So what advice do you have to keep someone going, to feel the recovery, to hang in there?
It's hard, right? Kind of to what I was saying before, there are things out of your control, and rather than trying to focus on all of the negative things, what I would suggest is just focus on every day a positive thing that you can accomplish, that you can get done. I'd suggest you try to do it in the morning, because the rest of your day is good if you've achieved something earlier in the day.
Right.
And just keep moving forward. As long as your business is still running, you have a chance. And I know it's hard to look past the noise and all the news. Bad news sells, right? So, but there is a lot of good news out there as well. And just focus on the good news, keep moving forward. And if you're alive today, that means you're alive tomorrow, and you still have a chance. So I just tell people to stay positive, keep moving forward, get something done every day. You'll feel better, even if it's a little thing. And control your costs and just wait for your opportunity.
Well, John, I think that's a great note to end on, a positive note and optimism that I think a lot of people can learn from, and take your good advice and keep going and jump in and do it if you haven't already. Right. Thank you so much for this. We really appreciate it. How can people learn more about you?
Easy. Just go to our website. It's oneparkfinancial.com. One is ONE, Park Financial. So if you're in need of financing, please give us a call. We'll see if we can help.
All right, John, we appreciate you. Thanks.
Thank you, Julie. Have a great day.
Thank you for listening to the Smart Business Revolution podcast with John Corcoran. Find out more at smartbusinessrevolution.com. And while you're there, sign up for our email list and join the revolution. Revolution. And be listening for the next episode of the Smart Business Revolution podcast.